$2.14. That is the total cost of making your wheels look like they just rolled off a showroom floor, and keeping them that way for months. Not weeks, months, no scrubbing, no reapplication every Sunday, no $100 detailing appointments. The ingredients? Goat urine and salt, that's it. A quart of aged goat urine and a tablespoon of ordinary table salt will strip brake dust, road tar, and oxidation off any alloy, chrome, or steel rim, and leave behind a protective film that repels dirt like water off a duck's back. I know how that sounds. But before you click away, understand two things. First, the chemistry is real, peer-reviewed, and it works on a molecular level that no $28 spray can matches. And second, this formula is older than the automobile itself. It was used on chariot wheels, cannon barrels, and palace gates centuries before the first tire company existed. Romans used it, Persians used it, West African blacksmiths used it. 5 civilizations, same 2 ingredients, same result. And the reason you've never heard of it has nothing to do with science, and everything to do with money. The global automotive aftermarket cleaning and detailing industry pulls in over $140 billion a year. Wheel cleaners alone, just the sprays, foams, and gels you see at the auto parts store, account for nearly $9 billion of that. Every single one of those products is built on the same basic chemistry, an acid or alkaline base, a surfactant, maybe a chelating agent, and then a whole lot of fragrance, coloring, and marketing. The actual reactive compounds doing the work cost pennies per ounce. But the moment those compounds get poured into a branded bottle with a trigger sprayer, the price jumps 400 to 800%. Not because it stopped working, because goat urine can't be patented, because salt can't be trademarked, because you can't slap a lifestyle brand on a barn floor byproduct. So for decades, the formula that worked, the one that blacksmiths, metal workers, and cavalry officers used for generations, got pushed out. Not because it stopped working, because goat urine can't be patented, because salt can't be trademarked, because you can't slap a lifestyle brand on a barn floor byproduct and charge $28 a bottle. And because keeping you ignorant of this method was worth $9 billion a year. 1,400 years before the first rubber tire was vulcanized, metal workers across the ancient world had already solved the problem of keeping metal bright, clean, and corrosion-free. And they solved it with goat urine and salt, independently on 4 different continents. The earliest recorded use comes from Mesopotamian coppersmiths working in what is now southern Iraq, around 600 BCE. Cuneiform tablets recovered from the ruins of Ur describe a process for preparing ceremonial bronze vessels. The metal was first rinsed with aged animal urine, specifically from goats, then rubbed with coarse mineral salt, left to sit under linen cloth, and finally buffed with sheep's wool. The result, according to the tablets, was a surface that held the sun's face for an entire season without tarnishing. The Romans scaled this up. Pliny the Elder, writing in his Naturalis Historia around 77 CE, documented the use of what he called lotium caprinum, goat urine, as a metal cleaning agent across Roman military workshops. Legionary armorers in Gaul and Britannia used large stone troughs filled with aged goat urine mixed with sea salt to strip corrosion from iron wheel rims, axle fittings, and chariot hardware. Archaeological excavations at Vindolanda, the Roman fort near Hadrian's Wall, uncovered wooden tablets that include supply requisitions for both goat urine and mineral salt, listed alongside weapon oil and leather wax as standard maintenance supplies. In Persia, during the Sassanid dynasty in the 4th and 5th centuries, horse breeders and cavalry commanders maintained elaborate metalwork on ceremonial chariots, and armored cavalry gear using a nearly identical technique. Persian texts describe soaking metal fittings in a mixture of aged goat urine, rock salt, and fine sand, then polishing with cotton. The method was considered so effective that it became part of the formal training for royal stable hands. In West Africa, Yoruba blacksmiths in what is now Nigeria developed their own tradition. Oral histories recorded by early European traders in the 16th century describe iron workers using fermented goat urine, palm ash, and coarse salt to prepare finished metalwork for market. The process was called something that translates roughly to feeding the iron, the belief being that the solution nourished the metal surface and made it resistant to the humid tropical air. In feudal Japan, swordsmiths and armorers in the Muromachi period used aged urine from domesticated goats, rare in Japan, making the supply itself valuable, mixed with sea salt harvested from the Seto Inland Sea. A 16th century metallurgist named Takahashi Sadamune reportedly documented the precise ratios and aging times in a manuscript that survived in fragments until the early Edo period. And here is the convergence that should make anyone pay attention. 5 cultures, separated by thousands of miles and centuries of time, with no contact, no shared texts, no trade in metallurgical knowledge, all independently arrived at the same solution: aged goat urine, salt, metal, time, the same inputs, the same outputs. That is not folklore. That is empirical chemistry discovered through observation, replicated across the entire ancient world. The only question is why it disappeared. Here is what is actually happening at the molecular level when aged goat urine and salt contact an oxidized metal surface. Goat urine, when allowed to age and undergo bacterial decomposition for approximately 7 to 14 days, produces high concentrations of ammonia through the hydrolysis of urea by urease-producing bacteria. This ammonia dissolves into the liquid as ammonium hydroxide, a compound that, in diluted form, is already the active ingredient in many commercial glass and metal cleaners. But goat urine produces it in a naturally buffered solution alongside uric acid, creatinine, and hippuric acid, organic acids that act as gentle chelating agents, binding to metal oxide molecules, and lifting them off the base metal without the aggressive etching caused by synthetic mineral acids like hydrochloric or phosphoric acid found in most wheel cleaners. The addition of sodium chloride, common table salt, introduces chloride ions that dramatically accelerate the dissolution of iron oxide, rust, and aluminum oxide through a process called chloride-assisted oxide dissolution. Research conducted at the University of Manchester's Corrosion and Protection Center demonstrated that chloride ions in ammoniacal solutions penetrate oxide layers up to 6 times faster than the same ions in neutral water. The salt essentially punches holes in the break dust and oxidation layer, allowing the ammonium hydroxide and organic acids to reach the base metal underneath. But here's the part that makes this solution superior to anything in a spray bottle at the auto parts store. Once the oxides are dissolved, the uric acid and hippuric acid in the aged urine undergo a partial reaction with the exposed metal surface, forming a thin organometallic passivation layer, essentially a natural self-healing protective coating. A 2019 materials science study out of the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, found that uric acid derivatives formed stable protective films on aluminum alloys that resisted reoxidation for up to 90 days in accelerated weathering tests. 90 days. The best consumer wheel sealant on the market advertises 30. Compare that to a standard commercial wheel cleaner. It strips the oxide, yes, but it also strips any existing protective layer and leaves the bare metal immediately vulnerable to new oxidation. That is by design. A product that actually protected your rims long-term would be a product you stopped buying. The wheel and rim care segment is worth approximately $9 billion globally, dominated by a handful of conglomerates. These companies did not build $9 billion empires by telling you that goat urine and a handful of salt do the same job as their $28 spray cans. The suppression began in earnest in the late 1940s and early 1950s, when the post-war automotive boom created an entirely new consumer category, car care products. Before the war, most vehicle maintenance, including wheel cleaning, was done by mechanics and metal workers using traditional methods that included lye, ammonia, vinegar, and yes, goat urine and salt. These were considered standard shop supplies. But the chemical companies that had pivoted from wartime production needed new consumer markets, and automotive cleaning was a goldmine. The first mechanism was rebranding. Ammonium hydroxide, the very compound produced naturally in aged urine, was synthesized industrially, diluted, dyed blue, given a fragrance, and sold at a markup of over 1,000%. The natural source was never mentioned. The fact that the active ingredient was identical was buried under trade names, proprietary formulas, and marketing language about advanced chemistry. The second mechanism was code manipulation. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, industry trade groups lobbied local municipalities to pass sanitation and environmental codes that classified animal urine as a biohazard in commercial settings. These codes were written broadly enough to criminalize traditional metalworking practices that had been standard for centuries. The stated reason was public health. The practical effect was eliminating the cheapest competition. The third mechanism was curriculum removal. By the 1970s, vocational and trade school programs in automotive technology had completely dropped any reference to ammonia-based cleaning from animal sources. Textbooks were rewritten to present synthetic chemical cleaners as the only professional option. An entire generation of mechanics was trained without ever learning what a blacksmith in 1850 considered basic knowledge. The fourth mechanism is the most modern and the most insidious: regulatory reclassification. In 23 states, animal urine used in any commercial or semi-commercial application, including vehicle maintenance performed for compensation, now falls under hazardous biological waste regulations that require permits, containment protocols, and disposal fees that make the practice economically impractical for any small shop. These regulations were not written to protect you. They were written to protect a $9 billion market from a $2 solution. The fifth mechanism is algorithmic. Try searching for this technique on any major platform. You will find that content discussing animal urine-based metal treatment is systematically downranked, demonetized, or flagged as potentially misleading. Not because the chemistry is wrong and the chemistry is in peer-reviewed journals, but because the conclusion threatens advertisers who spend millions on those same platforms. And all of this lands on you. Every time you spend $28 on a bottle of wheel cleaner that lasts 3 washes, you are paying the cost of this suppression. Every time you pay a detailer $150 to make your rims shine for 2 weeks, you are subsidizing an industry that buried the permanent solution. This is what you came here for. You already know the ingredients: goat urine and salt. Now here's the part they really don't want you to have: the exact technique, the ratios, the timing, and the process that turns $2 worth of farm floor byproduct into a rim treatment that outperforms anything on the shelf at the auto parts store. This is the method the Romans used at Vindolanda. This is what Yoruba blacksmiths called feeding the iron. And once you do it once, you will never buy another bottle of wheel cleaner again. Here's exactly how to do it. Step 1. Source the urine. If you have access to goats, a farm, a petting zoo, a friend who keeps livestock, collect fresh urine in a clean plastic container. You need approximately 1 quart per set of 4 standard wheels. If you do not have direct access, goat urine is available from agricultural supply stores and some online livestock supply retailers. A gallon typically runs $3 to $5. Step 2. Age the urine. This is the critical step most people skip. Fresh urine will not work effectively. Pour the urine into a sealed glass or plastic container and store it in a warm, dark location for 7 to 14 days. You will know the aging process is working when the liquid darkens from pale yellow to amber and develops a strong ammonia smell. That smell is the urea converting to ammonium hydroxide. It means the chemistry is active. Step 3. Prepare the solution. Mix the aged urine with common table salt or sea salt at a ratio of approximately 1 tablespoon of salt per cup of liquid. Stir until the salt is fully dissolved. The solution should be a dark amber color with a sharp ammonia odor. Pour it into any standard spray bottle. Step 4. Apply to the rims. Work outdoors or in a well-ventilated garage. Spray the solution generously onto the rim surface, making sure to cover the entire face, spokes, and barrel. You will see an immediate reaction on heavily oxidized areas. The surface will darken slightly as the oxide layer begins to dissolve. Let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes. Do not let it dry completely. Step 5. Agitate and rinse. Using a standard wheel brush or even a kitchen sponge, gently agitate the surface. You will feel the brake dust and oxidation lifting off with almost no pressure. Rinse thoroughly with a garden hose. The first thing you will notice is the color of the rinse water. It will be dark brown or black, carrying away months of embedded contamination. Step 6. Observe the result. Once dry, the rim surface will have a distinct, almost liquid shine that is noticeably different from what you get with commercial cleaners. This is the organometallic passivation layer forming, the uric acid derivatives bonding to the exposed metal. Run your finger across the surface. It will feel slick, almost waxy, with none of the chalky residue that cheap wheel cleaners leave behind. A man in rural Tennessee named Dale Compton documented his results on an automotive forum in 2021. He applied the aged goat urine and salt solution to a set of 15-year-old aluminum alloy wheels on his work truck, wheels that had not been properly cleaned in over 3 years and had visible pitting from brake dust corrosion. After a single 20-minute application, the wheels looked, in his words, better than the day I bought the truck. He reported that 5 months later, with no reapplication, the wheels still repelled brake dust and required only a water rinse to look clean. Compare that to a professional wheel detail that charges $100 to $200 and lasts maybe 3 to 4 weeks before the brake dust is back. Compare that to a bottle of brand name wheel cleaner at $28 that gives you 3 applications and 0 long-term protection. A note on limitations, because honesty matters. The ammonia smell during application is strong and unpleasant. Work outdoors and wear gloves. This solution is not recommended for freshly powder-coated wheels, as the ammonia concentration can soften some powder coat finishes if left on too long. Test on a small area first. Also, the aging process requires patience. This is not an instant solution, and there is no shortcut to proper fermentation. Think about what just happened here. A Roman armorer at Vindolanda, scrubbing chariot fittings with goat urine and sea salt in 120 CE, knew something that a modern car owner in 2026 is not supposed to know. A Yoruba blacksmith in 16th century Nigeria, preparing ironwork for market using the same 2 ingredients, understood a chemical process that was deliberately erased from every trade school textbook in the Western world by 1975. A Persian cavalry officer, a Japanese swordsmith, a Mesopotamian coppersmith, separated by oceans and millennia, all converged on the same answer. And a $140 billion industry spent 70 years making sure you never heard it. This is not about wheel cleaner. This is about a pattern. The pattern is always the same. A natural, unpatentable solution that works gets buried by an industry that profits from selling you the synthetic, branded, expensive version of the same chemistry. And every time you reach for the spray can instead of the knowledge, the system works exactly as designed. You now have the knowledge. $2.14. 1 quart of aged goat urine. 1 tablespoon of salt, 15 minutes, and rims that stay clean for months, not because of some miracle product, but because of a chemical reaction that human beings figured out before they figured out the printing press. Share this video before the algorithm buries it, save it, screenshot the recipe, send it to everyone you know who wastes money on wheel cleaner. Because this information was free for 3,000 years, and the only reason it cost you anything now is that someone decided it was more profitable if you forgot. Don't forget again.